Okay, well here's the solution for Zebra Challenge 5. Now the first step, of course, is just get some things set up. Import the background and place it. Add the text. This little circle is a oval object, has a gradient fill, has a line weight that gives it the border, has a glow length, so that creates the look of that circle. The little doorways are just rectangles drawn on top of it. And I think that's all there is to getting the setup. Now the next part will be to create an arena. Okay, well now we want to create the arena, and you do that by picking the arena tool, which is this one, and then you just drag to create the arena. Now we want to fill it up, and we want to have a painting in there, and so on the first painting is the surrender of Lord Cornwallis, so we can drag and release it. Position it here, and then we can shrink the size of our arena a little bit so it's lined up there. And then we also want to have below that arena a text object that gives us the label of the picture. So I'll click there and say surrender of Lord Cornwallis. Pull that out, and we'll do some pick a different font. We'll make it bold and italic. We'll make it a little bit bigger. Make it up to and we will align it in the center. We'll move it over a little bit. We will give it a fill opacity. Well, we'll give it a color. I'm going to pick one of the colors out of the background here. And we'll put a little line on it just to give it a border of 1. And we'll give it a little shadow. There we go. So that's our arena. Move that down a little bit. And so then after you do that, you'll want to repeat that as I've already done, that you'll have 8 pages that have each painting with a title there. Okay? So there we have our arena done. Notice that it's 1 page at a time. Now we may want to, put our frame around that. Now we want to put that, notice we don't want it in the arena because if it's there it's hidden. So we want it to be outside the arena, so keep your cursor out, but position it just so it is around the frame. And then if we go back to our arena and make that fill to be 0 opacity, there we have the arena flipping through, and it has the frame superimposed on it. Okay, now you need to make the buttons. So the first part is just easy. Use the radio button tool, which is this one, to draw buttons around each the circle. One thing that's tricky is there is an alignment option on each button. Go to the properties and I guess layout. There's a label position. And so the ones that are here on the right, you want the label to be on the center right. So it's going to extend to the right. The ones that are on the left, you can make the property to be center left. So the button label is actually going to be on the left. So there you have getting the layout. Now the next thing is to create the button sets. Now to do this, you want to select all 8 buttons. So I'm going to hold the Shift key down and I'll click on all 8 buttons. And then you go to Arrange and pick Make Button Set. There we go. Now, if you look at these, you see when you hover over any of the button, you get a red rectangle showing all the buttons that are in that set. Now, what this has allowed us to do is make use of two very important properties of buttons. So if we look at number 1, and there's a value this button, and as soon as you make a set of buttons a button set, they get set with values B1, B2, and so forth. And what you want to do is set a value that makes sense for your project. What we want is to use just the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because those are going to correspond to the 8 pages of our arena. So we need to go into each of these and set the value this button to its ordinal number. So this first one is 1. This next one is 2. Next one is 3. And this is one of those things that you might want to do in the inspector, because that's one of the properties that's there by default. We'll say value this button 4. 5. 6. 7. And 8. So if we look at them, we ought to have 1, 2. Yeah, it looks like they're fine. So now each one has its button, but what we've gotten out of here is this: the value is the second property, the value of the button set, tells you what was the last button that was selected. So if I go over and select 1, notice that the value of the button set is 1. If I come over here and click select 7, let me go back here to number 1 and look, the value of the button set is now 7. So that you can use that property on any of the inspectors because it's going to be the last value from any of the buttons in the button set. So our last step here is to wire from that value over to the value on the arena. So here's the arena, and we want to go to the current page. So under values, we're going to link it to page current. So that says whatever button number we have picked, we're going to show that page. So very simple. Let's try that. We'll run it. And when we hit 1, we go to page 1. When we go to 2, we go to page 2, and so forth. So the last thing we want to do is, when we save this, make sure that number 1 is the one that's already selected. That's what we want to start at number 1. And I believe that completes this challenge. So I hope you got it. This is a really powerful and useful feature to use when you can use button sets when you're making selections. Okay, well, hope that you got something out of that, and we will see you next week with the next challenge.